Hello, my name is Will, and I've chosen to do a speech as my presentation, and so it will be over interpersonal conflict. So, we all engage in interpersonal communication in some way, shape, or form. Whether we like it or not, if that communication is just ordering a burger at your favorite restaurant. Interpersonal communication is the exchanging of messages in between two or more people whose lives influence each other in some way. This can be in a workplace setting, at home, going to school, or even just being around friends. If you are with people, you are communicating with them. You are engaging in interpersonal communication. With that being said, we as people are not all the same and do not always see eye to eye. And when this happens, we tend to have conflict. This is not a question of if, but when will conflict arise. So why does conflict happen? What styles of conflict management do we use to solve conflict? And what sort of posture should we have towards conflict and conflict resolution? Conflict is something that happens regardless if we like it or not. I'm personally not a fan of conflict. I would prefer to avoid it I would prefer that it would not happen at all. So I would not have to worry about avoiding it or resolving it. It's something I don't like, and honestly, it gives me anxiety. Regardless of how I feel, it happens all the time in all areas of life, from work, home, school, and just day-to-day life. So what causes conflict in our interaction with people around us? Well, conflict can present itself in many unique ways. In many different environments, it can look differently from the view of a workplace. It can look differently in your home life or in a friend group. But how it occurs is with interactions where there are missed expectations, lack of resources, and your opinions or viewpoints do not line up on opposing sides. I think a lot of times we think we can be nonverbal with our conflict and believe there's no conflict at all, but because we just never made it known. On the contrary, though, we do not only communicate verbally, but we communicate nonverbally as well with our actions. And sometimes that's louder than if we were actually to say the things we think and feel. Also, conflict within the workplace can be ingrained into the environment of the organization to the point where conflict is almost encouraged. In a journal from the Harvard Business Review, it says that there are two key factors in this. First, the structure of management and how to manage conflict is not outlined. And when increased competition for promotions, resources, and increased budgets for specific departments can cause tensions within an organization and its people. When in reality, it would make more sense for organizations to promote teamwork and working towards a common goal and training management in how to handle conflict in all levels. The second factor is globalization and the increased use of technology to communicate. With technology, you are most often not communicating face to face, but through some sort of medium, from email to text to online chats. Communication can easily be misinterpreted. Also, interactions with different cultures must be taken into account when it comes to conflict. We live in a world where we are more connected than ever, and we are communicating with people from different countries and cultures that are very different from our Western culture. Western culture is more dominant and straightforward, while Eastern culture is reserved generally. For example, if conflict arises in American culture would say to take it head on and get what you want, while Eastern would not want to overstep and shame themselves or anyone else. The list can go on and on of different ways conflict can arise. But one thing is true, and that is conflict is a part of our relationships, regardless of how we feel. In the issue of resolving interpersonal conflict, there are 5 styles of management conflict they are competing, avoiding, accommodating, compromising, and collaborating. Before we look at these different strategies, we have to realize in any strategy or style of conflict resolution, there's a degree of motivation or self and motivation for them. And when we seek to have more information to understand the situation, we have a better chance of solving the issue where both sides are satisfied. The first style is competing. This style of conflict management is focused on self and is motivated to win the conflict. Even though more than just one person is involved in the issue, when a person chooses this style of competing, they take the stance that their point of view is most important regardless of the other person, and will at times do whatever they have to do to win. This, in my opinion, is the worst style to use because it is selfish and not really caring for the people around you. Next is avoiding. And this is almost the polar opposite of competing. This one does not try or want to address the conflict in any way, and displays a lack of care for any of the persons involved, even themselves or the issue at hand. Third on the list is accommodating. This style is submitting to another side of the conflict without putting up a fight, or really giving reasoning for your side. This style shows a lack of concern for others rather than self. Shows a lot of concern of others rather than self, and is not necessarily a bad choice depending on the circumstances. Two people can have solutions to a problem, but one may be more effective, so the other does not even try to implement their solution, but because it is no longer necessary. The fourth style is compromising. I think at some point in everyone's life, we find ourselves compromising in something. And usually it seems like the best option, but really it's not. It can be helpful and a solution, but in compromise, not everybody wins or loses. People involved just win less or lose less to try and satisfy the whole. The final and arguably the best option is collaborating. This style is not like the others, in the sense that the other styles lean one way or another towards self. This option is concerned about self and others. It involves the most work and investment, but ultimately it shows the most care and consideration for both parties, and ends in solution that is best for everyone and that everyone agrees with. An article from Harvard's Law School program of negotiating wrote several conflict resolution strategies, and here's a couple. Avoid escalating tensions with threats and provocations. Avoid escalating tensions. In the sense of when conflict arises, don't make threats. Don't let your emotions get the best of you in those moments. Also, overcoming an us versus them mentality. In conflict, it's never helpful to pit yourselves against each other, but rather to realize that we need to be working towards a common goal, not trying to beat each other. It goes with that competing style. Also, look beneath the surface to identify deeper issues. A lot of times conflict is deep-rooted within something else. And if we can find these issues, then we can help better solve conflict. But people in life are not always predictable, and conflict cannot be fit into a one-size-fits-all strategy. But all angles must be considered. I believe the best way to solve conflict is the last style of collaborating, because both parties have the other in mind, and for the person's best interest and well-being. If all parties do that, then everyone's interests are looked out for. If we get rid of this us versus them mentality, and we seek the deeper rooted issues, then we can all be better conflict resolutions. So conflict can occur from many different situations, and there can be many different ways of coming to a solution. But how should we feel about conflict? What posture should we have in it? Conflict is inevitable, and there is no way we avoid it forever. There is no way we can interact with people long term to where conflict never happens. It is something we have to face no matter how we feel, so we need to embrace it. Not in the sense we stir up conflict because we like the drama, and because it can grow us as people, it can make us better communicators. Through conflict, we can begin to see the needs of people instead of just the needs of our own. And that's sometimes not just about us. It is about the people around us. When we view conflict not just as something for us to win or a means to an end, but it's about people, it can greatly impact us all for good. I hope we are driven to be people who are better at conflict resolution for the people around us. So ultimately, we know that conflict is a part of everyday life, and it happens for a multitude of reasons created by unique situations that we cannot always predict. So we have to become accustomed to it. Thankfully, though, there are solutions to conflict we can pursue not only for our own benefit, but for the benefit of the people we interact with. For the fact is, we are going to interact with people daily, and it will not always go as planned. But if we have the posture that conflict is making us better, when we look towards the interest of others and seek to resolve conflict in ways that benefit everyone and better our jobs and our lives and our society, we will always be better off seeking to resolve conflict. Thank you.